What's going on, guys? This is Empty Box, and today we're going to be talking about the recently released Raceroom Racing Experience Group 5 package. This package includes 7 cars, 5 of which are all new to Raceroom Racing Experience, and will set you back by default $1,699 VRP, which roughly translates into about $1,750 in American dollars. Now, as usual with Raceroom Racing Experience content packages, if you own one of the 2 cars or both of them, you will actually receive a discounted price. Those 2 cars that were already available within Raceroom Racing Experience are the Ford Capri Zaxby Turbo and the BMW 320 Turbo. But beyond that, you have 5 all-new cars to Raceroom Racing Experience, and I quite like the way they went about things in the cars that they selected, I must say. Those 5 cars would be the Nissan Silvia Turbo, the Nissan Skyline 2000 RS, which I'm sure many of you guys like myself recognize as that car from Gran Turismo 2 that you used and abused to steamroll your way to victory, the Chevrolet Deacon Monza, the 1977 Greenwood Corvette, which is my personal favorite car within this package, as well as a Fab Car 935, which some of you guys might be saying, what's a Fab Car 935? It's a Porsche 935 that's built by Fab Car. Similar to the way that Kremer Racing had their own version of the Porsche 935, the 935K series. Same thing, just with a different group of people. So it's basically a Porsche 935. It's a loophole similar to the way that we've seen Roof be used in the previous couple of years as a workaround for the Porsche licensing, which is unfortunately exclusively held by Electronic Arts. I have to say, on a car selection basis, Sector 3, you have done a fantastic job. You have hit a 650-foot home run, which for you guys who know absolutely nothing about baseball, if you hit a baseball that far, that long, when you get back to home plate, they sit there and they hand you a cup and say, here you go, pee, because quite clearly, you're juicing. To me, what makes this package is not the 3 famous cars, the Capri Turbo, the 935, and the 320 Turbo, but those 4 cars that are different. They're unique. They're cars that you don't see in other sims. The exception of that being the Greenwood Corvette, which I believe was included in a mod for R Factor 1, but it's still a car that is unique and different and totally out there outlandishness. Plus the fact that with the Monza as well as the Corvette, you have 2 cars that are naturally aspirated, that are big power, big meaty cars, in a field of turbocharged cars with huge amounts of turbo lag, which adds in a nice bit of variety in itself. Okay, let's stop drooling about what this package includes and what's on offer in terms of content. How does it work in game? Are the cars fun to drive? Are they exciting? Are they realistic? How do they perform? That's the big question, because that's the really important thing. So how do they all drive? That's the important question. Well, first thing you will notice is an extraordinary amount of turbo lag in cars that are turbocharged, although nice to see, it does kind of differ from car to car. For example, the 935 has a turbo that takes approximately 3 months to spool up, whereas something like the Silvia as well as the Skyline, they seem to spool up and get on power a little bit quicker, as well as the fact that they have 5-speed gearboxes, which helps keep them on the power a little bit more. So there's a nice little variety in that regard. In terms of power delivery, you do have a couple of different options. With the 935, it is definitely much more violent. The power does come out of nowhere every now and then, which can make corner exit a little bit exciting. The Skyline and the Silvia a little bit more natural to drive, a little bit less turbo laggy, and then you have the Corvette and the Monza, obviously, which naturally aspirated, you don't have to worry about anything, although the handling on those cars is a little bit different. So you do have unique cars that do feel unique. However, I don't personally feel like they're as unique as I would like to see in terms of handling. I feel like the Greenwood Corvette actually in particular handles a little bit too good and doesn't go quite fast enough in a straight line. But that could just be my preconceptions and what I want out of a big bad Merca V8 in the front of a Corvette. This isn't to say that the cars drive exactly the same way, except for the powertrain differences and the way you have to drive the cars to account for that. But I do feel like the difference between something like the Greenwood Corvette or the Monza compared to something like a Fab Car 935 should be a little bit more pronounced in terms of the way that you get the car through the corner and the way you have to drive the car through the corner up to the power application stage of the corner. That said, this is something that I could say about pretty much all the cars within Raceroom Racing Experience. I think this is one of those things that if you're looking for a serious, super heavy-duty, hardcore sim, I don't think Raceroom Racing Experience is necessarily the title for you anyways. If you're looking for something that's more casual and offers a good bit of realism, this is what you're going to want, and the cars kind of reflect that in the way they drive. I honestly can't say that these cars are as good as the DTM 92 cars. However, they're still pretty good, they're pretty exciting, and plus, they are what they are, which is absolutely awesome, because who doesn't like Group 5 cars and cars with giant fender flares and giant wings and spoilers and turbos and things? How can you not like this? I will point out though, my force feedback settings vary quite a lot from what I run with other cars within Raceroom Racing Experience, and it did literally take me hours to go ahead and find something that I was actually finally satisfied with and was actually helping me drive the cars, which, as you can imagine, when you're trying to drive a car that has a massive amount of turbo lag, the last thing you want to be doing is questioning where the car is going to end up on corner exit, because it makes it kind of difficult to drive the car at that point. I'm not even joking. These cars are way more sensitive in terms of the force feedback than the other cars even within Raceroom Racing Experience. I was able to go back and forth at the very start of things, and I found the other cars to feel satisfactory for what I was looking for, whereas the Group 5 cars were still feeling absolutely weird and awkward. So it literally did take hours upon hours upon hours, and I found some settings that were pretty much exactly what I had pretty much used probably about 2 hours before I finally settled. But the mixing between the vertical loading and the lateral loading settings that are available in the menus are particularly important with these cars, so make sure you spend some time testing and tweaking and trying to figure out what settings work for you, because otherwise it's really just going to put you off these cars. To be entirely honest, I absolutely hated these cars before I got them dialed in. I was having a very bad time. In fact, I had already recorded this commentary, and I basically said, yeah, don't buy this because it pretty much sucks. And then I listened back to my commentary and I figured, okay, I'm going to go ahead and give it one more test and see if I can finally figure something out. Mind you, this is after probably 3 or 4 hours of tweaking force feedback settings. Yay. But I took the Skyline out to the Slovakia ring, which is an exceptionally smooth circuit, and suddenly it dawned on me on just how critical that mixture between the vertical and lateral loading force feedback settings truly are. And then I found something that worked, which those are the settings I put down in the description, and suddenly I was having a blast, having an absolute blast. No, I don't think these cars are perfect simulations of the real world counterparts, but you know what? I don't particularly care, because it's a whole hell of a lot of fun trying to hang on to something like the 935 or the Greenwood Corvette, which pretty much is trying to kill you the entire time you're trying to drive it, which can be incredibly fun and exciting. I don't typically get into the competitions within Raceroom Racing Experience because I'm not much of a hot lapper, but I couldn't help but notice the leaderboards, for example, had no representation for the Greenwood Corvette at the Salzburg Ring competition that they had. So I figured, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and give it a go and see how fast I can get that thing and see how far I can get it up the leaderboard. And I'm not going to lie. I spent probably an hour, hour and a half just lapping the Greenwood Corvette at Salzburg Ring, which is a very simple track in of itself, which for me is a heck of a lot of time to drive one car on one track with no other cars out there on track, because I don't do hot lapping. That's not what I'm interested in. But I was having that much fun driving that thing around that track. A couple of other things that I must point out. The AI absolutely struggles with driving these cars. They just do not handle it well at all. It's horrendous. It's god-awful. It's why this video is not a typical live race that I usually do. They're just very inconsistent. They're all over the place. They're wild. They're crazy. It's not really something that I would want to do too terribly often, because it doesn't really work that well in comparison with some of the other cars that the AI in Raceroom Racing Experience actually can drive quite competently and provide a good, exciting race. Now, I will say that I've seen a couple of posts from Sector 3 staff saying that this is something that's going to be reworked and improved in a future update for Raceroom Racing Experience, but again, I can't really go ahead and consider that valid until that actually is valid. So, by the time you see this video, it very well may be fixed. They might perform absolutely brilliantly, or they could still be what they are right now, which is kind of just in the way all over the place. And then, of course, as usual, the 3D models, the skins included, look fantastic. They've included a lot of skins, especially with, for example, the Fab Car 935. There's a bunch of Porsche 935 skins that you will recognize, including a couple of extraordinarily famous ones. But then you obviously have the sounds, which I'll go ahead and put some sounds at the end of this video, because as usual with a Raceroom Racing Experience, they sound absolutely glorious and just make you wish that every single racing game had sounds that are even half as good as what Raceroom Racing Experience currently possesses. Wrapping things up here, in my opinion, if you are a fan of Raceroom Racing Experience and you have really enjoyed it and it's one of your more played titles out there, you're going to absolutely love the Group 5 package, unless you're a little weenie who can't handle these cars. If you're someone like myself who plays a lot of different games, a lot of different sims, and you already have some content within Raceroom Racing Experience, I think this package does go a good bit of ways to making it a more full experience and making it something that you will consider firing up a bit more often. If you're someone looking to get into Raceroom Racing Experience, I don't think this is the best pack for you. I think that still comes down to the DTM experiences as well as the GT3 Masters experiences, which add in the tracks as well as cars and are a little bit more full-featured for prices that really aren't that much higher, especially when you consider the fact that you can find those on sale every now and then for cheaper than what this package costs by default. And then finally, if you're someone who just doesn't like Raceroom Racing Experience, this package isn't going to change anything other than the fact that it gives you some badass race cars, which maybe that's all you really just needed within Raceroom Racing Experience, but yeah. So with all that said, I'm going to go ahead and shut up now and let you guys enjoy the sounds of Group 5 within Raceroom Racing Experience. So hope you guys enjoyed. Bye.